The Bear River enters Bear Lake Valley near Bear Lake National Wildlife Refuge, where the river feeds managed wetlands for waterfowl and migratory birds. The valley is composed of irrigated croplands and sub-irrigated pastures and hay meadows from the high water table and oxbow sloughs. The river valley narrows near Georgetown Summit Wildlife Management Area and meanders its way through the Sagebrush Steppe foothills that provide winter range for deer, elk, and moose. My goal for this section of the project was to float the 60 miles through Bear Lake Valley from Stewart Dam near Dingle to Alexander Dam near Soda Springs. But there was a hitch. As early as 1898, the Department of Agriculture discussed the feasibility of diverting the Bear River into Bear Lake for irrigation storage. By 1911, a canal was constructed that now diverts the Bear River at Stewart Dam to Mud Lake and then into Bear Lake to hit storage capacity targets. The lift and pump station releases storage water from Bear Lake into Bear River Outlet Canal, which delivers irrigation water back to the Bear River near Burnt, Idaho. The Bear River is effectively dewatered in the section outlined in yellow and now moves through the canal system outlined in red. Water is used to manage the wetlands on the 18,000-acre Bear Lake National Wildlife Refuge, where most of the sediment and phosphorus is filtered before entering Bear Lake. I couldn't float the canals for liability reasons, so I started this leg of the journey in Burn. I dropped my boat off at the Burn Bridge and drove downstream to drop my truck off at the Nownan Bridge, then ran my bike shuttle back to Burn. Ready to roll. Alright, be good, bike. $537 CFS, so quadruple what I had yesterday. Great blue heron. The gradient of the river through Bear Lake Valley only drops 1.5 feet per mile. It is wide and shallow with exposed mudflats that provide loafing and foraging habitat for shorebirds, wading birds, and waterfowl. The most common bird I saw in this section was Canada geese. Throughout the Bear Lake Valley, the river provides water to the adjacent lands for grazing and crop production. By late afternoon, a storm system rolled in and was starting to build in the mountains. I made it 14 miles to my truck in Nownan before it rained and prepared for the next section to float. Nownan to Soda, to Bailey Creek and Soda today. Big day. This was a 22-mile day from Nownan to Bailey Creek Bridge, and I knew I'd be getting to my truck just before dark. This is Stopper Creek. Stopper Creek is an important tributary for Bonneville cutthroat trout and is the site of a restoration project underway to ensure connectivity for trout movement from the river to the National Forest in the Bear River Mountain Range. This project not only benefits cutthroat trout, but also benefits the landowner for water and grazing management. Downstream of Stopper Creek, the valley narrows as it approaches Georgetown Wildlife Management Area. I saw a few adult bald eagles in the area and observed a juvenile eating a carp it had captured. As I floated past Pearl Creek, I saw several mule deer in the river corridor, and even saw one swim the river just in front of me. Over the course of the last 100 miles I'd floated, I'd only seen a few people while I was on the river. I ran into an acquaintance replacing boards on their bridge and visited with him for a few minutes about why I'm doing this.
That looks like a project.
Well, hey, how are you, stranger? Where are you from?
Preston originally, but put in it now and
Float all the way to Preston.
gonna try. Float all the way to Great Salt Lake.
Awesome.
I started this project in late July with the goal to learn more about the Bear River landscape and why it's such an important place to conserve. Every day I'm on the river, I see firsthand how important it is to farmers, ranchers, and wildlife, and I can see how connected the river is to people and the landscape. By late afternoon, the storm was building, and although I didn't hear any banjo music, I heard thunder and saw lightning getting closer. This was an intense storm, and I was still several miles from my truck. I pulled my boat out of the river to wait it out. Right after I stopped recording this, a bolt of lightning hit just upstream from where I was standing. Since the storm wasn't letting up and the lightning freaked me out, I left my boat and walked a couple of miles to Bailey Creek Road to see if I could catch a ride to my truck. I don't know what it is with me and lightning, but for some reason there's an affinity for lightning and striking close to me, but I made it to my truck thanks to a dude that picked me up named James. My plan was to meet some friends the next day and float and fish from Bailey Creek to Alexander Dam. Then after we were done fishing, I could go back upstream and float my boat out to Bailey Creek. Fishing for carp with a fly rod is a lot like saltwater fly fishing. You don't lift your rod like you do for trout on the hook set. You strip set, which can be frustrating for a trout fisherman. We made it to the Oregon Trail boat ramp midway through Alexander Reservoir and didn't make it to the dam because another afternoon thunderstorm rolled in. After Andy and Scott headed out, I went back up to retrieve my boat that I left the night before. And now I'm headed to pick up my boat that I had to abandon yesterday from another freaking lightning storm. And the boat is still here and has air. Makes me happy. I finished the 45-mile stretch from Bern to midway through Alexander Reservoir, which marks the northernmost point of the main stem of the Bear River.